Yeah. Welcome to the second episode of the Views from the Friend Zone podcast. It's your boy Real Talk More. You know who I got in the building with me. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Yeah, Sensei. I cannot tell a lie. We out here right now. We in Southside, where we were born and raised. You know what I mean? Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. All you other dudes with kids that don't take care of them, go slap yourself.
So Friday was Tupac's birthday, so we're gonna give him a little love and have the show kind of themed around Tupac, right? So I saw the movie All Eyes on Me. I'm not sure if anybody out there saw it, who saw it. I thought it was really good. I thought they did a good job. You know what I'm saying? Recreating his life. Some people said they rushed through it and stuff like that. But everybody views a man's legacy differently. So it's always going to be different people who, view it differently or feel like this should have been done better, that should have done better. You know what I'm saying? So you can't please everybody.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
definitely can't. Shout out to the boy Renee. He was in there from Money and Violence fame.
That's fam.
Now he on the big screen.
That's fam, you know what I'm saying?
He said he stick Pac up in a movie, something like that?
Yeah, he was a stick up boy, you know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because before I went to see the movie, I wasn't a Pac fan because I felt like Pac was the reason why Biggie died. And everybody gonna say, oh, you can't say that, this, that, and the other. It was drama, it was beef, he wasn't there. I get it, you know what I'm saying? But it really, until I saw the movie, I always had a certain perception of Pac. And as the build up coming into the movie, I was just like, oh, okay, you know. I know his significance, his impact is big. You got to think about, he did all of that and he died at 25.
25 years. Yo.
7 movies.
What have you done in 25 years?
That's what I was telling my wife, man. I don't even know what's my
much.
legacy. I don't even know what's my legacy yet. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. You got to think about that. But what I will say on that whole thing is, and this might seem cheesy, but it goes back to that line from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, right? And the problem with Pac was he had a lot of power. He had a lot of influence. So, yeah, he might not have directly caused Biggie's death, but indirectly, because of the actions he took, he did. You know what I mean?
So
messed up.
I'm just gonna, give a little intro of and that's gonna be our first topic. All eyes on me.
All eyes on me.
So I'm gonna start it off like this. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, shoot. Let me give these people what they need, that information.
So the first topic is Tupac. All eyes on me. Was he a prophet or was he just for profit? If you've seen the movie and just in general, a lot of people's just like, man, his impact was so dope. He had such a great, outlook on life, a great perspective, but then he also did things that made you say, man, that kid didn't have it all together, right? So do you think he was a prophet or just for profit?
I think Pac was both. And don't get stuck in a box, people. You can be more than one thing. But it was clear to me that to be so young and so wise, of course, his wisdom, a lot of it came from his mother, Afeni Shakur, and her, movement and activism or what have you. But he was very wise to be so young, and he used his platform and his power to try to uplift the community. And then at the same time, he did things that you wouldn't want somebody in that position to do. You know what I mean? He glorified gangs. He glorified violence at times. You know what I mean? If you listen to his music, it was thug life, just like it was written across his stomach. But at times it meant one thing, at times it meant another. You know what I mean? So he played both sides. He was wise with making a profit. So he knew how to make money. That's what the whole beef was about, him and Biggie. I don't care what nobody say. It was for money. And he I think he said it himself at some point. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to get paid.
Yeah.
you know. But he didn't include Biggie in, but Biggie knew. Biggie was like, you know, he out here doing stuff just to get money, you know. But you got a bunch of fools that follow rappers or entertainers, and they be going for the hard. They be going harder for the rappers than our rappers go for themselves. You know what I mean? They like, we out here trying to get paid.
So to
bro.
me, it's just like, you know, if was he a prophet or was he for profit? It was both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to kind of be both. In this world, you don't become a musician just for your message. I mean, a lot of people do it because they're passionate. A lot of people do it for the passion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to make money, you know? So to me, it was crazy because it's just like growing up in the time period that he did, you can see the influence of his mother, Afeni Shakur. It's just like, you know, the whole Black Panther movement, how strong and how well-spoken he was. But just being a child of the late 70s, early 80s, he got caught up with the drama too. You know, I got to make money, so you start hustling, you know, the glamorous lifestyle. And it's like, you know, the reason why I can say he can be a prophet for some, because you can learn from his life. You can learn from his message.
Yeah.
And not to get too deep, but you know how it is sometimes. It's just like, not to compare him to a pastor, but it's just like you kind of got to watch, you kind of got to get a lesson from the words from a pastor, but not necessarily always follow their lifestyle, right? Because a lot of these pastors, sometimes they're driving Maybachs on the church's money and stuff like
living
that.
big time.
And they're living big time. Their congregation is struggling, but they're not struggling.
A lot of them came from drugs, or they used to be
exactly, especially
members,
those the Detroit city. You know, the Detroit. You know, not to single out just Detroit, but you know, Detroit is a big pimp town, and a lot of the pimps become pastors when they're done with their life and try to teach people, you know, lessons. And it's like, you know, he was a prophet because you can learn from his life. You can learn from the messages that he taught us.
But that's the thing. If you look at Pac, you see the maturation or immaturation, if that's a word, I don't even know. Because kind of when he was...
We'll let it rock.
We'll let it rock, right? When he was in the digital underground days and he was dancing and making this, you know, party music, so to speak, he was one person. And then he got with Death Row, and you could see the influence of his surrounding. You know what I mean? That whole West Coast gang stuff. Suge got him in, you know, involved in. And then he started smelling himself. He run around with Snoop and Dre and them. And you could see him change and become somebody different. Though he still was about his activism, and he always was about supporting and uplifting the community, that gang mentality became heavier. And then you can't... I love Pac to death, but you can't just say, like, you was doing things for profit, but you involved somebody else. And ultimately had their lives ended because, you know, you out here trying to entertain. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, so to me, in the ghetto sense of prophet, you know, he was a ghetto prophet, right? Like
ghetto.
Like I said, you can't necessarily look at his whole life and say God sent him to necessarily change lives and like, you know, follow him as if you would follow the Quran or the Bible. But as far as touching lives and having an influence, you know, he definitely could be considered a prophet, a ghetto prophet, or a prophet for this generation. You know, and like a lot of prophets, not to compare them to Jesus, but their lives are cut short. And, you know, while they were here, you kind of didn't appreciate their life, appreciate who they were. But when, after they're gone, and you kind of like go through the chronological order of their life, the events, you kind of like, man, we didn't appreciate this man enough. I seen this movie and it was just like, this dude was really smart, really, really smart. I mean, you listen to his music, you can tell he's smart, but it's just like, just knowing his talent, like, you know, and his work ethic was crazy.
Crazy,
but,
right?
Know,
when he got out of jail, he hit the studio. I ain't seen the movie yet, but I know just from watching like all those documentaries on Pac and all that stuff, he just went to work. He was like, I've been locked up, wasting a lot of time, so I'm gonna get out and hit it. But I think like somebody like that, you're right. We don't appreciate them as much until they're gone. But for him to do so much in the short period, and I got mad love for Biggie. It's not always, well, if you love
Biggie,
Pac,
my
you
dude.
hate Biggie. You know what I'm saying? But Biggie's gonna be remembered for his music. You know what I mean? Solely just for his music, nothing more really. Pac was more than just the music. You know what I mean? There was a message. There was a certain image, I guess you could say, the character that was him. You know what I mean? The things that he would say. He was somebody who stood up against. I never forget the funniest thing when he walked out of the court that George Jefferson walked. You know what I mean? After he beat this case, like, yo, Pac was a man.
Yeah, so like with all things in life, you go out on ventures and it is for profit. It is because you got to sustain yourself. As a musician, a lot of musicians do come into the game just so that they can make some money and stuff. But I do feel like he was conscious enough to really give us a message. For every I Get Around, he did have Brenda's Have a Baby. He did have a Dear Mama. He did have those kind of things, to move us. But then he also did have that's why I F you, and get money and he was a pure combination of ratchet and righteous.
Ratchet and righteous, yeah.
That's how I could sum up, that
that's
first,
a great,
first thing, profit or for profit.
That's a great phrase.
He's a combination of ratchet and righteous. So we're gonna move on to the next portion of Tupac and of the All Eyes on Me, and it was Tupac our generation's musical activist, right? Mm-hmm. Was he our greatest of our generation? I'm talking about late 70s, early 80s babies. I know, earlier generations, as African Americans, we had Harry Belafonte, we had Nina Simone, we had Bob Marley as activists who were great musicians. And then even in the early 80s to mid 80s, we had Public Enemy, who really came across with that message. And then we had, NWA, whose message wasn't, 100% the most positive of all time. But they were trying to get us to notice things. But was Pac, our late 70s, early 80s babies, was he our musical activist?
Activist, like, I would say, you would have to say yes on the simple fact of the level of celebrity he had, in relation to those of the past. Bob Marley, super huge artists as well as activists, you know what I mean? So there's other artists out there who are very involved in community issues and social injustices or what have you, but none of them was on the level that Pac was. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that he was so big and was still willing to speak out on injustice and say his feelings, because that's the problem today, and it goes all across the board, not just music, but sports and other forms of entertainment. These people, our people, are, a lot of them, I think a lot more now are speaking out, but a lot of times they are afraid.
Because of their brand.
Yeah, they're
not going to talk about
their pockets, so they don't want to speak what they really feel as far as injustices go and their feelings on whatever's taking place in society. They so worried about their pockets getting hurt, they not going to do it. Tupac, he didn't care. He didn't care. He was going to say how he felt, and that's one of the things you got to love about him. He spoke from the cuff. He said exactly how he felt. He didn't care how it was going to affect him. And if anything, I think it only made him more money. It definitely didn't hurt him. So,
I mean, if just to take from the movie, there's a scene in the movie where it's just like, when he gets to Interscope Records, they're feeling your music, but nobody wants to hear Brenda Has a Baby, because the girl's molested by her cousin. She's 12. She's having a baby. She get rid of the baby in the bathroom, and it's just like Pac was like, no, I'm a prophet for what's going on. You have
to hear that, because that's what's really going on. Like,
yeah, he's like, I'm a prophet. I'm reporting to the real lifestyles. He was just like, if you're born a white person, you sometimes have a legacy set out for you, We don't have any legacies. You know, our music is the only thing we leave behind. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like foreshadowing, and it's just like, yo, they had, they need to hear Brenda's Got a Baby. They need to hear these messages to know what's really going on. You know, he
And
basically was
the way he broke it down. I mean, you know, it's messed up. Yo, we from Queens, so we can't say like it's just Pac, because Nas is somebody who also, in his music, had a lot of messages and definitely had an opinion on social injustice. But the thing about Nas is he wasn't nearly as, he's still alive, so he isn't and never was really as outspoken and boisterous as Pac.
Yeah, his musical content is very strong, but for some reason, Nas has kind of shied away from really taking on the pressure of being that generational voice.
Yeah.
He kind of made his music, did his thing, so talented.
He stayed low key for the most part.
But he stayed kind of low key.
Pac
like
lived in a limelight.
Pac was just like, yo, you know, all eyes on me. He embraced
all
it. He realized that, you know what, I'm gonna be this voice. I'm gonna be this target. And you know what? I'm not gonna let that stop me from doing what I wanted to do. And also, we also gotta understand, as a young man living in the 80s, early 90s, you know, he also had to be like, he was also part of the crystal popping, big gold chains, you know, maybe objectifying women and stuff like that we still go through nowadays. And
but that's you know what? That's the great thing about him, though. None of us are perfect. You got people out here trying to be perfect. Pac showed you, like, I'm not perfect. And he said it, that famous line that he said in the movie, I guess. I may not be the voice that sparks change or whatever, but I will encourage
influence. He'll be the influencer of maybe the mind that changed the world.
You know what I'm saying? So he just basically accepted his flaws, and yeah, he had all that stuff going on as far as legal, you know, cases and this, that, and the third. But just because you had that going on, a lot of people would be ashamed to make those positive songs, because be like, damn, I look like a hypocrite. You know what I mean? He was like, whatever, I got this stuff going on in my life, but I know what I want to say. I know the things that I want to speak about, and I'm going to still speak about them. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what? And that was, to me, the thing that made me come around about Pac. Because like I said, I wasn't the hugest Pac fan, because I felt like his recklessness was the result of Biggie dying. But one thing I had to give him props over Biggie was he was willing to be like, you know what? F it. I gotta speak for the people. Our people are hurting. You know, even though some of his actions kind of did contradict the message a little bit, he was still saying, I'm not perfect. I mean, you gotta think about it. He died at 25. So when he was dropping these sound bites, this is 22 years old, 23 years old. You know, I'm 34, about to be 35, and I still say reckless and crazy things. Knowing what I know, living the life that I live. So he was currently living the, crazy life, but still had enough conscience in him to like say, F it, man, I gotta get this message across.
Yeah.
And you know, and his background was crazy. You know, he didn't know his father. His mother was a Black Panther. His mother, got on drugs and stuff like that.
Abuse,
he moved around and stuff. So it's like, that's why it's so tough. We gotta watch who we have to say, who's the quote unquote role models. Like, I strongly believe parents need to be the number one role models in kids' life. That's a whole different story.
Absolutely.
But we also have to be able to learn from certain experiences people have. I don't want to necessarily say mistakes, but you gotta watch what Pac is doing. And now we have Kendrick Lamar, who's found a good balance of being conscious
and still having that street
appeal.
Kendrick got the gang affiliations or whatever, but
he's not a gang member, but he's from a gang family, and he grew up in Compton. So, but it's just like, we have to be able to live our life, and at the same time not be afraid to leave a legacy. Be afraid. The one thing I didn't like about Pac from the movie, and obviously the movies kind of changed messages, or you know, a movie's, even if it's based on a true story, it's always gonna have embellishments, right?
Yeah.
I just felt Pac was too quick to follow things sometimes. Like, you know,
he was real reactive.
Reactive. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
even though he came from a strategic family that had a strategic mindset, and he was strategic in certain plans that he made, he acted on impulse a lot. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of got him in some bad situations.
I think we know a lot of dudes out there like that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously those who see the movie, they'll have more insight on that, and they can comment on that. But to be honest with you, I can't 100, you know, I put out the activist question to say, I know there's other artists who are activists, right? And other artists who stood for cause. But when it comes to that young African American male, I think Pac, if he was a child of the 80s, early 90s, I think Pac was the most influential out of the musical activists that I could think of. I mean, I'm sure there were musical acts of different, you know, genres that probably had that impact.
And it's not just in our community, like in the black community or whatever, minorities. It's like Pac had so many white fans. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
But the culture is always embraced.
The culture is always embraced.
Our music and culture, our musical culture is embraced, but not our living culture.
Yeah, yeah.
So
but
it's
at
a
the
separation
same time, he
of
had
church and state.
He had fans you wouldn't expect, like down in the country, Midwest. You know what I mean? They was listening to Pac, so it's like his message, and I don't even think he realized it. I mean, he might have realized it a little bit, but he didn't realize how far his reach was. You know what I mean? And the things he was saying sometimes, and that's the thing. A lot of these artists, I miss Pac for the simple reason that it's so much trash out there these days. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And at least, like I said, all his messages wasn't perfect, but there was a message. And you can get something out of every song that he had, whether it be a ratchet message, but it was done in a certain poetic way, because he was a poet. Or you could get a serious message that'll make you think about wanting to do something positive in your life, in your community. And nowadays, oh my God, I can't get no message. I don't know what's going on out here.
And the crazy thing that really, like I said, really made me sit back and like appreciate Pac. I appreciate Pac, like I said, later, because during the time growing up, I couldn't, you know, as dope as the music was, California Love, when it first came out, that energy was crazy. But to me, it was that beef thing.
We wasn't mature enough, and we was biased.
Of course,
you know what I'm saying?
I had the East Coast bias.
It was
Biggie helped me develop my swag, so there was no way I was going to get. I was riding out for Biggie regardless.
If I don't like you, then I'm not gonna hear what you're saying. Somehow, our boy Chris was a diehard Pac fan.
Hey, I'm surprised he didn't get the Thug Life tattoo or the All Eyes on Me and stuff like that. The last thing I'm gonna say on this topic is like, and this makes me sound like an old head, but it's just like, at the time we was judging Pac on like, man, he's just talking about B words and stuff like that, flossing and stuff like that, but he still had the combination of the ratchet and righteousness. And like nowadays, it's like, yo, if you're not a drug forget about the hustling drug culture that we grew up on, because at least it was the ends to the mean, right?
Yeah, like
we looked up to the hustlers because the hustlers was brave enough to take the risk. Don't get it twisted. I'm not glorifying the hustling, but growing up in our society, in our hood or in our environment, it was like the hustlers was the one who was risking, you know, making those risks, making those choices to get money to kind of feed themselves. But nowadays, we respect the drug addict. We respect the, I'm on Percocet, Molly, I get high.
I'm on that codeine.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's who we glorify.
I done smoked a pound to the face.
So they hated gangster rap, right? Because gangster rap was tough. But you got to remember the 80s and the 90s, how crazy it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, it's kind of crazy, but, you know, it's a little...
But it's
to
the
me,
business.
It's more tame because it's so many different things
it's
going on.
It's the business. This is not by accident. You know what I'm saying? The reason you hear one type of message over and over again, the trap music and like the glorification of using the drugs, it's not by accident. Those people higher up in those companies, this is what they want you to hear because they want our communities and our kids to think that it's all right to use drugs, so they'll get strung and hooked on this and that. You know what I mean? Become dependent upon drugs, and it's all part of destroying the community. You know what I mean? They found a way to use this culture, which we hold so dear, and which has become so profitable, and they can still control the message that's sent out there. Like a Kendrick, a J. Cole, they're like diamonds in the rough. They're very far few between, and they're rare. That message is not going to get sent out but so much. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you got these execs, you got your E-bros on Hot 97 who seem to be about more than just spinning records, any records, but at the same time, those songs, like, I mean, I was telling you a couple weeks ago, I heard one of the worst songs ever. I don't even understand how this song got played on the radio, called Slippery or something. I think it was it maybe Migos and Gucci Mane? I know Gucci Mane was on it, but it was like one of the worst records I've
there's
ever
a record
heard.
about hot Cheetos and Takis. You know what I'm saying?
They will play anything.
All right, so we're going to move on that portion of the topic. So the last question on the All Eyes on Me topic revolving Tupac was, did the thug life perception he portrayed diminish the positivity he tried to spread? Did it completely overpower the message he was trying to spread? Because to me, as an older gentleman, I could appreciate the art and separate thug life from the Dear Mama and stuff like that. Because you know what? Pop made it cool to be conscious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Public Enemy put it out there, but Public Enemy was such on that side where it was just like, you know,
you had to be all in. You was either a Black Panther,
you had to be militant,
Enemy, or you wasn't down at all.
Pac said something in the movie. It was just like, in order to lead the people, you got to meet them where they're at and then lead them out. And Pac was a genius at going to the people, meeting them where they're at, and then bringing them out. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I loved about Pac. I thought, you know, it's smart, right? Because it's sort of like, you know, if I come off too preachy, I'm going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if I kind of infiltrate, I don't know if there's a better word for that, but if I kind of assimilate myself into the crowd, make you feel like I'm Pac, I'm just like Pac, and then tell you a message and show you how to move, it's just like, wow, that's dope. So to me, the thug life didn't, you know, overdo or outweigh the positive he tried to do, but at the same time, society, more people remember Pac for thug life than Dear Mama or Changes.
Well, I don't necessarily know if that's true. I mean, this because that tattoo was so iconic, and he always had his shirt off, so you see thug life. But if you remember, there was an interview he had, and he explained thug life. It was an acronym, and I can't remember exactly what it stood for right now. They mentioned it in the
movie. I just can't think of
what it meant. It was an acronym. So it didn't mean like thug life because I'm a thug, this, that, and the third. It was deeper than that. I think as a youth, you will hear more. You will be sucked in more to his, you know, negative side and the thug image than you will the positivity, because that's just the way, you know, society is. They glorify that stuff. The positive messages that he did share wasn't as out there, you know what I mean? They wasn't magnified the way the thug life was. Whenever you saw Pac on the news or the TV, it was because something negative. It was a court case, or spitting in the, you know, camera, or doing something with Death Row, this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of stuff that he did that wasn't even filmed on camera. A lot of donations he made, or a lot of things he contributed to. I remember I was listening on Facebook one time. There's a phone call he had with his boy, and this is before he died. He had plans on, you know, getting a bunch of rappers together in the community. It might have been in Oakland or something like that, but he wanted to put together like a whole big festival You know what I'm saying? And he wanted to help people get money in the community. He wanted to bring people together. A lot of big ideas, and it wasn't necessarily his message that overshadowed, like the negative stuff that overshadowed the positive message. It was the way he was exploited, the way he was advertised. You know what I mean? You have control over the image that people will have, or the perception people have of your image. But at the same time, the media can control how people see you. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They can influence what people see of you if they only show certain bits and pieces of who you are. We are like a portrait. You know what I'm saying? You can't just look at half of it and say, "Oh, I understand. This is what it is." You got to see the whole portrait. But it's just a matter of, like you said, you grow up, you learn more, and you get a different perception. I definitely got multiple perceptions of Pop.
Yeah. I definitely feel like I'm happy that we had Pac, because he influences the Kendrick Lamars and the J. Coles. Yeah. Like, we always got to have people to bring it, one level, and then have people to come and take it further. Like,
we definitely don't need any more people bringing ratchetness. Like, we have quite enough of that. Quite enough trap.
Society loves that, though. So it's like we're never gonna get rid of that. And I'm not saying we need a balance.
I'm not saying get rid of it.
We need a balance. But the thug life, to me, is just like I rather the thug life than the what we got going on nowadays, where it's just like the emasculation of the black man as well.
Oh man. Could you imagine? That's the thing. People say, imagine if Biggie and
dressing
Pac
like
was
the
here
way Little Uzi Vert dress, or Young Thug. You know what I'm saying? Like how? Like I thought, and this is excuse the disrespect, but I was watching the movie and they showed Humpty Hump with the fake nose, the prosthetic nose and stuff like that. And I was like, that was such a clownish thing. But the stuff that they're doing now,
do it, baby.
I can't imagine getting away with that. But
nah, you couldn't, because it was just I don't know what it has. We accept so many things in our society today, and it's like acceptance. Okay, you should accept people for who they are, but at the same time, certain things you gotta be able to question, like, what is this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What is this? Like,
so let's move on. The next topic is going to be changes, right? And all the topics of today's episode is Tupac songs. Not necessarily about Tupac, but our first segment was about Tupac. Yeah. So changes. I'm gonna hit us with a little bit of the changes. Right, so changes, right? I love changes. Changes is one of my favorite Pac songs. One of my favorite songs in general, right? Because it still was coming from that ghetto ratchet dude, but it was saying that, you know what? We need changes. We see all the things going on, but we need to make changes. Things need to change. And even if his lifestyle wasn't completely ironed out, he still saw that we need to make changes, right? So I'm going to flip it, the changes on legacy, right? Because people who have certain images out there in society, things change and their images get tarnished. So now we know one of our biggest legacy African-American activists, actors, comedians has been vilified, and some would say rightfully so. I would say I would say he definitely didn't live. He definitely not. His life doesn't reflect the image that we saw, right? So his change is one of the negative changes. But my question to you is legacy. Should Bill Cosby's legacy be completely washed away with the sexual assault allegations, right? And I was telling my wife this. sexual assault is always tough, right? Because it's always a him versus a person kind of thing. And then when you have 50, I think it's 51 women accuse someone, the allegations is really hard to die down. And even this last is to combat. Even this last situation, it was said that he didn't have sexual intercourse with the lady, or there wasn't oral sex, but he engaged in necking, like
The hell is necking?
kissing,
He was making out with him
and stuff like that. And I think Cosby being huge in the 70s and then the 80s, there was the lifestyle of taking drugs and then getting down. You know what I'm saying? Drugs has always been strong.
I think like, to answer the question, and I gotta say, it's like, that's gotta been one of the most shocking things I heard, like, that Bill Cosby was doing this. You know what I'm saying? When you see Dr. Huxtable,
how pudding pops
Dr.
become
Huxtable
Quaalos. You know what I'm saying? But to me,
he was
it's
giving
just like
he was giving what they call GYN exams without a license.
Yeah.
Nah.
Should his legacy be completely washed over because of sexual assault allegations?
Nah.
To me, it's just like the positive. You can't unwash. You can't undo the positive. You can't undo the millions to the United Negro Fund, sending so many people to college for free. So many people became doctors because of watching Bill Cosby on TV, or be lawyers because Claire Huxtable was a lawyer,
or any kind of professional. Just black families being together, and students, young black youth actually wanting to go to college and believing they could. Don't forget Different World. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That was another
one.
That
like,
made me excited to go to college, right?
Yes,
I went to go to college because of Different World.
We was raised on the stuff that he had put out there, whether it be the TV shows or just a lot of stuff that he did in the communities too. Being from Philly, there's a lot of things that he put his money where his mouth was. You know what I'm saying? Now he was also putting his mouth some other places he shouldn't have been.
And don't get it twisted. Sexual assault is a very serious issue,
it's a
right?
serious issue,
and it's also tough because it just doesn't lie only with Bill Cosby, right? Because there's a lot of male celebrities who get caught up with the sexual assault kind of thing.
But if I do this, look at it like this: if I win the Nobel Peace Prize, right, for curing cancer, right? I cured cancer. I'm saving lives, right? I'm changing lives all across the world. But at the same time, say I was a pedophile, you ruining lives with that, right?
Yeah.
But so it's wrong. You're absolutely wrong. There's no way around it with that whole thing. But at the same time, you won a Nobel Peace Prize for creating a cure to cancer. You can't take that away. That is still you. You know what I mean? It's just more than one side of you, like we were stating before with Tupac. It's just more than one side of you, and you can't say, well, I'm gonna vilify him for the negatives that he's done and the things that he was doing and what he was about negatively, and completely forget and wash away all the positives that he contributed and had in his life. You can't do that. So I would say no, you cannot completely get rid of it.
Yeah, I say his legacy is tarnished, right? Because there's no way we could and that's the crazy thing about the court of public opinion. Once you're vilified for something like this, even if you're found not guilty, there's always going to be like, his money made him not guilty, his fame made him not guilty, but he's really that monster. And it's tough, right, that the allegations came like 20 years after his legacy.
This is what I'm saying. This is why
been already one of our greatest,
sexual assault
images.
is sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
But like any crime, I think except for murder or such that, there's a statute of limitation, right?
Yeah, but if he really did it,
I find it so crazy that all of these women were quiet for all of these years. All of these women. It wasn't one, two, 3 women. You talking about
51
women.
To combat that
shut up.
Combat that is, it's scary, right? It's a scary thing to be the one to be that brave one to say, yes, he did that to me. And sometimes you need that first person, right? It was, sometimes it's that first person who take the risk and say, yeah, this happened, and speak up.
Bruh.
And it opens up the floodgates.
But even the first one, why did it take so long? Why now? Why? You know what I heard? Mm-hmm. And this doesn't take away from what was done. If he did it, he did it. It's wrong. This doesn't change that. But they were saying he was about to make a big move. He had Bill Cosby got buku dollars. He was about to make a big move to buy a network. Like NBC,
I heard that was
he was going to buy into a network. It might have been rumored, but it made sense that they didn't want him in there. The powers that be controlling, the economics of the world didn't want him to make that move. And what better way to prevent him from doing so than tarnishing his legacy? Yeah. You know what I mean? They can't take his money away, so they tarnish his legacy.
I was watching the Cosby Show yesterday, and I was laughing, and I was just like, man, this was such a huge part of my childhood. You know what I'm saying? We met Bill Cosby at Brooklyn College.
While you was watching it, but was you thinking about him feeding them Quaaludes and stuff like that?
I was thinking, like, you don't know. we always know the perception. We never know the man. And that's why to bring it back to the pastors thing, that's why you kind of got to follow the word and not necessarily the man, because the man is flawed. Yeah. All man is born into sin. Not to sound too preachy. That's why I kind of be like, it's tough because I have a sister, I have a mother, I have an aunt, I have nieces. I'm saying you have daughters. It's tough because you never want your daughters to be in a situation like that because a man had power that he gets to get away from.
I think another thing that makes it so bad is a lot of those women that Bill was drugging, he was so popular back then, he didn't need to do it. He could have had them. He didn't need to do it.
That's what kind of confuses me. Like, but you know what? That's never some men. Some men is sick, right? Some men, because even there was a football player a couple of years ago, Harper. I can't remember his first name. He played on the Saints.
On the Saints?
Yeah, and he got accused.
Darian Harper.
Who got accused for raping like 9 different women in 9 different cases. The dude is good looking. The dude's in shape. Nah, that's not a pause. There's good looking dudes. There's not good looking dudes. So, but good looking dude, millionaire. Yeah. In the prime of his life, physically, a physical specimen.
He ain't even had to really spit game or nothing. He
you know what I'm saying?
So,
but there was something wrong in his mind that made him a rapist. Yeah. So it's tough. We kind of touched this anyway, but I'm going to just reiterate the second portion is, can we separate the man from his works and his accomplishments? Can we say, you know what, Bill Cosby did great works, but Bill Cosby the man I can't stand behind.
Yeah, most definitely. I think you got to. I mean, I'm not going to change the fact that I love the Cosby Show. I'm not going to change that I'll laugh at some of Bill Cosby's jokes. If he did a stand-up right now and it was funny, I would laugh at the jokes. Yeah. I would say, Bill Cosby is funny as hell, but he's a sick man. He's a sick man.
It's tough. It's tough. Like, because some people say he was vilified because he's a black man. And
look what they try to do to MJ. That's what. Look at Michael Jackson. Rest in peace.
He was a weird dude, though. He did weird shit.
He was weird, but you love MJ. Everybody loved MJ.
Let me be honest with you. Like me, I love coaching and I love influencing younger generations. But as a man who don't have any kids and stuff like that, I wouldn't be inviting kids to spend the night at my crib. If you're not my family, if you're not my godchildren and stuff like that, I'm not randomly inviting kids to spend the night over my house.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, yes, it's weird. And let's say he did do the stuff that he was accused of doing. Pedophile behavior, okay. I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm not going to put that on my man Mike right now. But that don't change Thriller. That don't change the great stuff. That don't change.
I love it. PYT.
It don't change
none
of that.
Off the wall.
Like, I don't have. Ain't nobody gonna say, "Oh, Mike was touching them kids." I ain't never listening to remember the times no more. I hate that. Nah, you can't. I mean, you just can't do it. So you got to separate the two. And like you said, tarnished. Okay, yes, your legacy is tarnished, but is it completely worn, wiped away? Is it gone? Nah, we don't have that little MIB clicker, so I can't forget.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna forget that.
It's funny. This is a sports analogy, but like in the NCAA, if you get caught for allegations, your program get caught for allegations, you know, in taking inappropriate funds and stuff like that, they'll go back and vacate wins and say you're not the 2011 national champion anymore. But I saw that championship game. I saw Louisville get that ring. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of
celebrated that night. You can't take that celebration.
It's symbolically you taking it away, but you can't undo. You can't undo the good.
Is Reggie Bush still a Heisman winner?
He has a Heisman.
Speaking of Heismans,
so that's a good segue, right? It's the last portion of the changes, right? And the topic changes was just like, you know, not only do we need change, but sometimes people we love to start one way and they go through a change, and it completely changes the landscape of not only how they're viewed, but also how we're viewed as a, you know, as a culture, as a race, right? So my question to you is, whose change in their life has affected the black image worse, OJ or Bill Cosby?
You said worse?
Worse. Right? Because OJ, of course, OJ, murder is murder. Listen, murder is worse.
Murder was the
than
case
sexual
that they
assault,
gave me.
right? OJ allegedly, right? Because he was not convicted of murder. OJ killed 2 people, which we can never unchange. That was 2 people OJ killed, and it vilified, you know, black men, especially black athletes, and black men of prominence, really bad. Bill Cosby has, you know, sexually assaulted allegedly 51 different women. Okay. This was America's father, right? Not only black people saw Bill Cosby as their father, people of all races saw Bill Cosby as their father. Now, I'm not saying what's worse, murder or sexual assault. Murder is worse than sexual assault. But as far as carrying the hate, the weight of the image of a black man or black people in general, who do you think affected the image worse, OJ or Bill Cosby?
Well, to be honest with you, if you ask a white person this question, they're going to say OJ. They hated OJ. Like the hate for OJ. There's a lot of hate for Bill Cosby now, but there was people who had nothing to do with what took place who hated OJ. You know what I mean? And it divided you along racial lines. You know, and it took place around the time of Rodney King. There was a lot that went into OJ, the OJ trial. You know, 2 people lost their lives. Now, yeah, Bill Cosby got crazy numbers for people he drugged, but he didn't murder anybody, and he didn't cause a divide like the way it is now. Well, not now, but the way it was during the OJ trial. He didn't cause that same divide. It was literally divide. You had people out there outside the courthouse protesting, and people out there supporting, and you know, it was just a lot going on behind that. So I think OJ was definitely worse, and it's the fact. I think the reason it's worse is the fact that he got off, which makes it worse, because it showed, like, what was it, 93? 95, something like that, 90 something. But it showed that there was still so much racial tension and divide in the country where they didn't want to see that.
Junior high.
Yeah,
I remember us going in 231, going into the lunch,
12, 13
going
years
into
old.
the recess, and knowing that OJ got off, and everybody was cheering, and our Caucasian teachers was looking at us like we was crazy.
Yo, I didn't care nothing about that back then.
We knew the Jukes.
Like,
it was the Jukes.
I know he played football,
and we didn't know he was a football player. We knew the guy from Naked Gun.
Oh,
we knew the guy running through the airport, jumping over the Hertz, running to Hertz. That's who we knew. We didn't really know
I
him
wasn't
as
on
an
it like
athlete.
that, but a lot of people was, and then I watched the joint on FX that played. What was it like last year, 2
Cuba
years
Gooding
ago?
Jr.
Recent,
last year.
yeah, with Cuba Gooding Jr. And it's because we were so young back then. I didn't get the full. I just knew the trial was going on. I knew people was invested in it heavily. But now watching that joint on FX, I really see what was going on and how it went down and why it was so like passionate and people felt one way or another. There was no middle ground with that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by the divide he caused. And it's like, yeah, Bill Cosby's situation is like, it's nothing compared to that.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, in a ways, I think the Bill Cosby thing more tarnishes our lasting image, right? Is because OJ was an athlete, right? So people are enamored with the athletic gifts, but people don't always necessarily have the highest expectations of the athlete. Well, Bill Cosby was supposed to be an educator. Don't get it twisted.
Over
OJ,
here in America,
OJ thing was worse.
We put our athletes on such a pedestal. They are like gods, so to speak. Especially over here in this country. So
I think I'm by. I think the Cosby thing hurts me more because of the prestige, the level
he had a different image.
Bill Cosby was raised to. You know
he had
what I'm
a
saying?
different image. Yeah, we didn't think. Well, not me personally,
because
but people
Cosby
didn't
was an
think
activist too.
Yeah, people
know
didn't
what I'm
think that way of OJ. They just really respected him and was fans of him as an athlete, an actor, whatever the case may be. But the level of crime, I think,
of course,
is what
I
makes
always
it worse.
say the crime is worse, but I think as far as affecting the black image, to me, the Cosby thing is worse, right?
Because, well, yeah, when you say the black image, because
athletes,
at one point OJ wasn't black no more.
every couple of years, an athlete is allegedly killing somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's become common. Like,
and not to get into the whole football thing, but it's a lot of times it's football players who are getting caught up with these murders and stuff like that. Aaron Hernandez, Ray Caruth.
Yeah, but none of them was on the level of OJ. That's why OJ, like Ray Rice hitting his wife in the elevator, is minor because Ray Rice wasn't nearly on the level of OJ. Now, if it was who we want to use for an example, say if it was Cam Newton who just murdered 2 people, then I guess you could say, okay, wow, that's big. You know what I mean? Because your level of star will definitely dictate the impact and how many people care about what you did. And we got a quick shout out to the boy Bacardi Doc. I forgot to shout him out.
Bacardi Doc.
Bacardi Doc is
he
not
got
with us
taken out
today.
for Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I understand
We miss you, bro.
If people are out taking their fathers, showing appreciation, especially because fathers aren't appreciated. So I definitely couldn't fault him for not being there, but he definitely will be back on the next episode.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna move on to the last topic. The last topic is another Tupac song, and let me play my.
I got it right here. You put it up?
I got it.
You got it.
I don't know how well. Can you hear it?
Not that much. Yeah, I can hear it.
And that song, if you didn't know, is Do for Love, right?
What you won't do.
So our last topic is Do for Love. And the question is, what you won't do for love? What are the things that are deal breakers, or is just like, you know what, I love this person but I can't do it? I think one of the top things is I couldn't stay with someone who cheated on me, especially knowing how hard I work to try to be good to that person. I couldn't do it.
What you won't do for love.
And I can't stay with
you try everything.
A drug addict. I would try to help you. I would try to help you get clean,
Where that
But if
come
you just
from?
said, you know what, I don't, because the
Like,
drug, I couldn't stay with a drug addict.
So a chick that smoke weed like recreationally. She's not necessarily an addict. What do you mean?
The
when you
hard
say
stuff,
addict?
the hard stuff where
Oh,
it's just like
you can't deal
start
with a
stealing shit.
cokehead.
I can't take you to my family house because
Well, no,
my
you
mom's
talking about
jewelry might be
crackheads.
missing.
Like
I'm
nobody
saying
wants to be with that. I don't think anybody
I couldn't
aspires
stay. I couldn't
to
stay.
be with.
So what you couldn't do? Like
What I couldn't.
what you
tolerate
wouldn't do
in a
for love?
relationship?
Yeah, what you
Oh,
wouldn't
what
do
I
for
wouldn't
love?
deal with. I can't even say the cheating thing because what goes around comes around. But yeah, I mean, it's different for men. Men deal with being cheated on way worse than women deal with that. But I won't say that's like something I couldn't do. I wouldn't tolerate it. So, you know, you get one strike. If I love you that much, I have to really, really love you. You know what I mean? Like head over heels. I'm just simple stuff. I can't deal with a dirty female. Like you got to be clean.
Yeah.
You gotta be clean all around. Just
I always equate if the woman lets her surroundings be messy and stuff like that, that she don't take care downstairs, and that's a huge, huge turn on.
my girl now is OCD clean.
Yeah.
Like extra clean up during the party while the party's still going on.
Yeah.
It
Now-
gets annoying sometimes. I'm like, yo, enjoy yourself, but she got to clean. So I mean, that's a big thing because you're a woman. You know, you see a woman. A woman is supposed to be sunflowers and roses and freshness and everything. We not to say it's literally speaking, but we rugged, dirty. You know what I mean? Caveman type.
Mhm.
And we want our woman to be dainty and clean, you know, the opposite, so to speak, in that regard. So that's one thing I could not deal with it. Like, even if I'm head over heels in love with a woman, nah. And if you can't cook, like,
I mean,
that's a problem.
nah, but
I'll help you. You got to be.
to me that's minor.
Take
Like,
class. That's not minor.
when I
That's a
say
big
can't,
deal, bro.
what you won't do for
a
love
big
is just
deal.
like what you won't tolerate, what you won't
I
compromise.
won't tolerate a chick that can't cook. Nah. Compromise.
Because you know, with the whole, working women, women who are into their careers and stuff like that. There's a lot of women who don't cook, but it's fine because you gotta make up. You gotta make up for it and learn how to cook yourself. You know what I'm saying? So there's no other what you won't do for love. I won't. I can't. I can't be with a woman. Like, you know how everyone has a past and stuff like that. I can't be with a woman who has a crazy past and is living that kind of a way. Like, if you know that you slept with mad dudes in the industry and you was passed around and stuff like that, and you still want to be out there like that,
No.
I couldn't.
Because
do
then
that.
then it's not your past. That's your present.
That's your present.
You know what I'm saying?
But she
I-
could
I
say,
could
no, that's not
definitely
who I
deal with
am now, but they still carry themselves that same kind of way.
Nah, you can't be doing that. If you had a past like that, I guess I could deal with you. I just don't want to know your number because your number might be
Yeah.
crazy.
The number thing, to be
I
honest,
don't want to know your number.
of course, women tell you their number, and it's whether you believe it or not, and stuff like that. I don't let it keep me up at night. But there's no such thing as a whole facts. Although we make that joke about checking a woman's whole facts or a dude's whole facts, you know what I'm
just
saying?
because if your
There's no
number's crazy,
verification.
we gonna be going out. I'm gonna look crazy because be dudes be like, "Oh, what's up?" Every dude that say "What's up" with you done smash, just like.
Like,
Yo,
there go jawbones.
They ain't nothing
They used to
precious
call it
about
jawbones.
this. They ain't nothing precious about, as dudes, we always want to have, something that we feel is simply ours. Though we know, unless you got your girl as a virgin, somebody else done been there before you. So you just have to accept that. But you don't want it to be crazy.
So let me ask you a question. The second question for Do for Love is: have you ever loved someone at the detriment of your own well-being? I think we all do it. I think we all make sacrifices and love people despite shortcomings or things that aren't ideal. But have you really loved someone that just changed? You had to change who you were completely to be with them.
I'm gonna blow your mind, and this is gonna bug you out because I'm gonna flip it. I love myself to my own detriment. You know what I'm saying? I
Wow.
Because I love myself so much, I made selfish decisions in relationships that cost me love. You see what I'm saying? Because I was being selfish. You know, I was thinking about myself. I love myself, I guess, more than I loved that person I was with and should have. And that, you know, was a detriment to the relationship. I never could say that I loved another, like loved a female to the point that it made me change who I am, because I can't. You know, I can't do that. I feel like that's not even you. If you got to change who you are to be with somebody, that ain't love. That's not real.
I gotta kind of disagree on a certain level, right? Because if you was a dude who's a hoe,
I'm not talking like that.
You have to change who you are to settle down.
I mean, your core. Not being a hoe is not your core. That's just your choice.
Nah, some of you dudes out there,
well, then, yeah,
being a hoe is your core. It's who you are. Who
be
you
in a
woke
relationship. Up. And yeah, I back in the day, you know, you got some things. I wouldn't say I was a hoe, but yeah, it's just selfish behavior. Mm-hmm. So I would say who you are as a person. Like you said, if you got to change who you are as a person, like if you're an outgoing, energetic person, family oriented, but your spouse is like got a problem with you being with your family so much, or they're not as outgoing, so they want to keep you inside and do, you know what I mean? And you got to change it up and cater to them, and stay away from your friends and family. You know, you can't be around them as much, or you start to change your personality and you become more introverted because it's making your spouse happy. That is not love.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're with someone who is in a social butterfly, so those things kind of happen. But you gotta find that happy medium. You know, I struggled with that in my relationship, where my wife is not as social as I am, but she knows if something's important to me, that I need her to come.
She supports you, right?
She's gonna come.
Yeah.
If I tell her, like, you know what, this is cool, this is important to me, but I don't necessarily need you to be there, I let her do her thing. Same thing. Sometimes my family, her family have something at the same time. I tell her, look, I need to be at my family thing, go do your family thing. And it's respected, but you gotta find that happy medium. Some people might say that, I have been in a relationship and, at the detriment of myself because of certain things that I want. But I'm a strong believer of, God gives you certain things that you're supposed to have. Sometimes you make decisions that change things, but sometimes it didn't happen. So I can't cry over something that didn't happen. I can't sit there and say, oh, I wanted something, it didn't happen, so now I'm blaming my spouse or my significant other and stuff like that. Because I feel like if it was meant to be for me, it'll be for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but if this person made me like, you know what, I had to, start doing drugs because that's the only way I could relate to this person, or I had to, give up working in a certain world.
But tell you the truth, love is a drug. Yeah, don't let me get all philosophical on you, but
love is a drug.
Love is a drug, and, and people act different when they in love. It's something that I guess naturally happens. And that's why I fight it a lot, but I guess it's good. It's a high. You get a high from being in love, especially women. Like, they go crazy with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, men and women love differently, but at the same time, you don't lose yourself in that love. Mm-hmm. Enjoy it, embrace it. Don't lose yourself.
So this is the last question I'm gonna ask for the show, and it's: have you ever been denied potential love because of a person couldn't accept something about you? Like, I'll speak for me, anybody with eyes can see I've been a big dude all my life. I'm a big dude now. So I've been denied love where it's just like, I love the person told me they love me too, but they couldn't accept me even though they loved me, they couldn't accept me as the big person. They loved things about me, but they didn't love the fact that I was a big person, and it couldn't accept it. So I've lost out on love. I wouldn't say it was love because love is unconditional. Love is unbiased. So I thought I lost out on love because of that, but you know, I never could say that I lost out on real love because of something about me. Because either you like me as I am, or you.
Real love is looking past all that and accepting the person for who they are.
Have you ever been denied love or fronted on because of something? Maybe it's
Fronted
not.
on.
Maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's not physical, but maybe it's just like, you know, your situation. You know.
No. I know what
someone
you mean.
don't want to date someone because they have kids. Someone don't want. You know
I know this was in college too. Like the only thing I can really think of with regards to this question, it wasn't love. It was a situation I had with a female. We agreed that when we first started messing with each other, we wasn't looking for a relationship. We just liked each other's company. You know what I mean? So we was friends with benefits, and it was good and great. And I caught feelings. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you caught the feelings because it's usually you know. Let me not be sexist, but you know,
you see the women, right?
We usually stereotype or generalize that the woman catch feelings. But sometimes we cuff too. Sometimes we get caught up too.
Yeah, so I caught feelings, and I approached her like, yo, I want to be more than just, you know, your F buddy. I want to, you know, I want you to be my girl, whatever. Let's do it. And
she was like, nah.
She loved me. I know she loved me because I loved her, but she stuck to what she said when we first started. She was like, nah. She was like, I don't really want to be in a relationship. She's like, it's not you. She would say, you're a great person, this, that, and the third, feeding me all that nonsense. But she was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. She was like, we can continue to do what we do, but that's it. And I was like, damn. I was like, yo, that's crazy.
And, you know, getting back to the friend zone aspect of friend zone mall.
I guess that's the
I've always, to me, it's the opposite. Sometimes, you know, in my younger days, I wanted to just be F buddies or friends with benefits. And the woman would be like, you know, nah, if we had to do something, we need to be in a relationship.
That's crazy.
I got put in the either we cuffing or we nothing.
Cuffing or we nothing.
And that is crazy. So that's how we're going to end it. We're going to end it on that. And, you know, my view for the week is that, you know, no matter what you go through, no matter what people try to accuse you of, you know, work hard towards your legacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Cosby thing is crazy. I have some female friends who I said, you know, it's tough for me to just completely vilify Cosby without knowing what really happened. And it's just like, oh, you're perpetuating that male culture of thinking sexual assault is just an allegation and not really happening. I know it does happen, and it's very sad, you know. So it's important to protect your legacy. It's important to watch how you move, you know, especially people in power. You just got to realize you can't put yourself in certain situations, and sometimes it comes with the territory. So watch your legacy, you know. Be out there, grind hard, but, you know, try to protect your legacy.
Remember, ladies, it's the views from the friend zone, but don't let them in the end zone unless they worth it.
Nice. All right, so that's how we gonna end it up. You know, next week we should have another episode going and stuff. We appreciate those who supporting us and keep following up. You know what I'm saying? So that's our views from the friend zone. Thank
you for tuning in. Holla at your boys.